Welcome back. The Standard Bank Gallery has put together work of 13 dynamic young artists in a groundbreaking exhibition titled We Are Culture. This is the first in-person exhibition since the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions. The exhibition includes exciting work from a new wave of young voices in fashion, music, sculpture, performance, art and more. To share more on this exhibition, we're joined by Dr. Mdluli, the Standard Bank Gallery Manager. Dr. Mdluli, a very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Morning, and thanks for having me.
Good to have you on the show. And this news will come as a relief for so many artists who've been left, to dry as a result of the COVID-19 restrictions. So why the title, We Are Culture?
Well, it was inspired really by having a sense of owning or having a sense of ownership of the kind of creativity that's coming out of, South Africa. And it was inspired by the Jay-Z, who is the, hip-hop artist, and was talking about the kind of influence that hip-hop has had on popular culture in general, and talking in the sense that, hip-hop is culture and that we are culture. And so nothing kind of happens without that kind of influence.
Right. Now, share more on the exhibition and how you distinguished the 13 young creatives.
Well, we wanted to select a kind of range of multidisciplinary, right, to see what is happening across the landscape. So not just visual artists, but also fashion designers, musicians, photographers, performers, but to just get a general sense of what is happening creatively in the landscape. Yeah.
Okay. Now, B. Diamond Head curated this exhibition, isn't it? Who is she?
Yes.
And why her?
Yeah, so she's an amazing art director, a stylist, and I felt like that she was somebody who is in tune with what is happening trend-wise, right? Because she works obviously in the magazine and advertising space, but it's also about having somebody who has her eyes and ears on the ground, because you kind of know, she knows who are the kind of young people that are, doing very edgy and interesting things out there. So I felt she was a really nice fit for this, also because of the way in which her work entails having to kind of incorporate all these different elements of when she's putting together a fashion shoot, for example. She'll have a prop there, she'll have a photographer there, she'll have a stylist there to dress the subject. So I just felt like she was a great fit in that sense.
And understanding that art is multifaceted and multidimensional, why then the inclusion of fashion, music, sculptures and performance art?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's about getting a sense of what is happening creatively and what are the things that are influencing young people, like what are the things that are informing them in terms of what they are preoccupied with, right? Like what are their concerns and how are they translating that into a kind of a visual language, right? That is not just limited to fine arts, like the stuff we see on the walls, but including, fashion and all those other kind of genres, yeah.
Yeah. So what was the general interpretation of We Are Culture? I mean, is there something in common from each?
I would say that it is about, the kind of, that young people are concerned with, I think, a more just world, right? So in terms of how they approach the way in which they make work, there's a big concern with sustainability, doing things ethically, advocating for social justice. So I think those are the generally things that young people are concerned with, and it kind of was foregrounded in not just the way they express their creative output, but it is what is kind of the foundational inspiration for them in making their work. Yeah,
indeed. And what sort of emotions do you notice in the work of these young creatives?
I would say there's a great sense of enthusiasm. There's a great sense of optimism for the future, even though, things are not really looking great. I think there's a lot of things that are happening in the world that leave a feeling of being bleak and hopeless, but I think these works inspire that there is a kind of enthusiasm and optimistic for kind of feeling for the future. Yeah.
And also notice the cultural interrogation of what? Of identity present in the works of so many of these dynamic young artists, right?
Yes. And I think that has always been a underlying kind of theme, right? Because obviously every artist works from a point of a biographical, right? In being informed by the biographical, meaning that, it is the things and the social environment that they're in that inspires the kind of work that they make. And even if you try as an artist to kind of not make that the main focus of your work, it does permeate in some ways because you just can't help it. Who you are does influence the kind of work that you make.
Let's talk about the impending revolution on the arts that Standard Bank is, of course, supporting. Do you get a sense that the message is being filtered down to all aspiring artists out there, artists in any form, that art can be a vehicle and a medium for livelihoods? Because at this present moment, some young people, at least at the school level, only see art as a hobby.
Definitely. And I think that's the reason why we were quite deliberate about working with young artists, right? And artists that are just kind of starting out and formulating a body of work and a language that they are kind of becoming confident in. For example, Kumo did the work that he showed, during his gap year. He just finished matric and he's exploring, right, his avenues. And it was amazing to see what he did during this period as a period that he's using as a thinking phase, right, to think about what it is that he actually wants to do. And I think this exhibition offered him a really great springboard to see firstly how his work would be received, but also that he could actually do it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And who is the show designed for? Who is the intended audience?
I would say mainly young people, aspiring young artists that are maybe not sure about what you want to do, but you know that you love art and you don't know what aspect of art that you want to focus on. It's also for anyone who's interested in art and different expressions. And the general art lover and somebody who wants to see something refreshing, right, and not just kind of the same things on walls that tend to kind of be dictating how you should be seen, but it's about questioning and looking differently at the way in which we think about what is supposed to be art, right?
And well, it suffices to mention that this show is all about reminding us of our power, the power that we have and the level of influence that we have, to influence the global stage. And speaking of global stage, are those doors opening on the international front for our young artists?
Definitely. And I think that one of the things that we wanted to do with this exhibition was to try and have these young artists before they become too famous, right? Because it is inevitable that they will go on to do great things.
Yes.
But we wanted to ensure that we're getting them right just before they kind of become out of reach. So definitely, in terms of the kind of work that they're making, we are going to see many of them, if not all of them, on international stages.
All right, please share the details of this exhibition.
The exhibition is at the Standard Bank Gallery. We now have it on our virtual platforms because it closed last week, but you can experience it on our virtual platforms. And that's a great way of also interacting with not just, the physical form, but that it now lives in a virtual space and is accessible from anywhere.
Right, right. Dr. Mdluli, great chatting to you as always. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We just spoke to Standard Bank Gallery Curator and Manager Dr. Mdluli about the gallery's 2022 exhibition titled We Are Culture.